Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Get Geek podcast, where we celebrate geek, nerd, and pop culture. Each week, we deliver the best analysis for fans, by fans, on anything related to movies, TV, video games, comics, anime, and manga. We talk geek. And now, here's the Get Geek podcast. Here we go. Microphone check 1, 2. What is this?
So, if you need your checks to be checked, I recommend Checker's Choice, where your checks can live out to their fruition of mixed checks. Okay, someone else go.
Okay.
Check.
And okay,
Check.
that was a lame check after that one. Super lame.
Super lame.
So after all that checking, Godzilla, Shin, today is the 4th anniversary of that movie. I mean,
Wait, really?
seriously?
Yeah, that's wow, that's pretty cool. And they're coming out with the new anime for Godzilla 2. It's called Godzilla Checkpoint or something like that. I need to look again.
Isn't it like something save or something like that?
No.
I mean,
No.
Save the Earth, that was a one-time thing. In Godzilla versus
Shin Godzilla is
Save the
honestly
Earth.
the best Godzilla. And I know you were talking about like Zilla.
Yeah, what about Zilla?
He's
What about
garbage.
Zilla?
He's trash. He
No.
looks
All
garbage.
right.
Let me make sure I get
Here's
this right.
the
Hold
thing.
on.
So, that movie would have been a fine monster movie on its own if it wasn't called Godzilla, because that was not Godzilla.
Zilla looks trash. Zilla looks trash.
Yeah, no, like, as far
It
as
does
monster,
kinda look trash. He looks
Yeah.
like a freaking iguana.
well, that's that was the point
Singular
of
point,
theirs.
by the way.
but- okay, it's singular point.
There you
Okay,
go.
I knew it was something point.
It was an S. Anyway, Iguana Godzilla. By the way, hello. This is the Get Geek podcast. We were just talking about Godzilla. We got carried away because
Wait.
AJ is a huge Godzilla fan, as you know, and like I said, it's the 4th anniversary. So
Wait.
singular point. Yes, we're live. We're talking.
Okay,
We're recording.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, before we continue with this Godzilla talk, I will just remind everybody to please, if you love this podcast, and I know that you do, please rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast so you can continue loving this podcast. And normally we would say we're recording remotely, but today it's just me and the boys. Jose and Gabe will not be joining us on this podcast. They'll be back next week. So we're not recording remotely, so we shouldn't have any sound artifacts, which we normally don't because we are so freaking awesome.
Yeah.
At least we try to be.
Wait, watch this.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a segue.
Okay, segue away.
Speaking of the boys,
Not yet. We could
what
save
are
that for
our
last.
what are our topics?
Oh,
What are we talking about?
so then go. Tell us more.
Well, I don't want to introduce the first topic because I want to introduce the third.
We'll talk about all 3 topics. So we are going to be talking about Cinemaxes season 2 of Warrior, which just came out, and we were like we're super excited about, right?
Yes.
And we are talking about
The Haunting of Bly Manor, not House Manor.
House Manor.
No, because we when we first heard about the show, we were referring to it as Bly House, but it's Bly Manor.
It's Bly Manor.
Bly
Where is
House
that on?
Manor?
That's on
Netflix.
And finally,
What Mr. Eli was alluding to.
and segueing into, which was a
The-
nice segue, by the way.
It was a little bit sloppy, but
It was a dope segue. Come on.
the
Admit
boys.
it. What?
The boys.
Who?
The boys.
Oh, the boys. Okay.
Was that
Very
too
good.
loud?
You probably just broke like somebody's,
Yeah.
eardrum. with
Rip
that last
to your
one.
ears, poor listener.
But you were saying about Godzilla, or should I say Zilla, or should I say the iguana? Right?
It wasn't okay. Look, it's not the best, but there are certainly crappier designs.
It's
for
trash.
a monster.
It is trash.
It's trash.
There's a reason why they call him Gino, Godzilla in name only, right? There is a reason.
Shin Godzilla has the best
I
design.
remember when we went to that Godzilla Fest, right? Back in what was it? That was 2004 in Chicago. Come
Don't
on.
tell
Oh
me.
yes,
We
yeah.
did go and see Godzilla Final Wars there in its original Japanese language. No subtitles, no English version. We saw it as pure as Americans can see a Godzilla film, right?
Is that?
Yep.
Gino was in there, right?
Yes,
Wait.
What
remember
happened? What
that.
happened with Gino in that movie? Please, for the people who don't know
Okay.
Godzilla,
So
Andre
Is that the
AJ is going to enlighten you right now.
you're gonna get to this once you finally reach this stage of your Godzilla watching.
Wait, is
but
that-
let me
You haven't
preface.
seen Final Wars yet?
No,
I'm
he
pretty sure I
has,
have.
Yes,
but-
I'm pretty
like,
sure we did.
I have.
But I've been taking him through a
3
tour of the
times.
movies.
Oh, so we're going back. We're going retro.
Yeah.
So, to preface, I'll put it in terms you'll definitely understand.
Will he?
If Godzilla was Vegeta, no. Better, no, not a better, no. Okay, let's go like this.
Wait a second.
What?
Well, hold up. We're so haphazard. We're so excited about Godzilla. We forgot to introduce ourselves.
Yes, that's true.
We
Wow,
did,
we're
right?
making a lot of mistakes.
We are so we're excited to do this
Yeah.
podcast. But go ahead.
I'm AJ.
Eli.
And I'm Walt. Continue with the Godzilla thing.
So, if Godzilla was gonna be Vegeta, then Zilla was Yamcha. In terms
Oh,
of
yeah,
getting
yeah.
wrecked.
I think I remember that.
You want me
Is
to
that
say
the one
again?
with the?
if Godzilla the actual Godzilla was Vegeta, then Zilla was Yamcha.
Ooh, that's rough.
Wait, but isn't that the movie with like my boy Monster X?
Yes, it is.
Hey, he has the best design in Godzilla.
Yeah, he is kind of cool.
Yeah, he's awesome.
It's kinda cool.
Although his name sucks. It's trash. It's like
See, it's really an allusion to Monster Zero.
it's like
But
naming
in
your show.
order to not give away his final form, they called him Monster X.
Yeah. It's
So
like
it
naming,
was like,
wait.
hey,
What's it?
this guy seems kind of familiar. Do we know something about him? Nah, wait. Let's just see. And as the movie goes on.
Oh, yeah.
Oh wait, that is an allusion to that. That's awesome.
But like naming a monster Monster X is like kind of like naming a show like Vampire Diaries or the originals.
But see, Monster X is supposed to be the X Factor, the guy that you don't know, right?
It actually also stands. Well, I happen to
know.
think that
For
it stands for the Exilians.
Exilians?
Yeah.
I know.
Ugh.
That too, but that's kind of corny. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Monster X is cool, but I'm still partial to the design of Kiryu. That is my favorite kaiju slash robot slash
Mechagodzilla
monster.
3.
Oh. I mean, I honestly like his design too.
We have the toy, the collectible. I'm sorry.
Which Andre gave to me broken.
No, that's something different.
I'm pretty sure that was the one that you gave to me.
Yes, that's Kiryu, but again, I was like 5 years old and didn't know anything about collectibles, so
That
watch
was a
it.
mistake.
Don't buy your kids.
Should have kept it in the
collectibles.
box.
Yeah. Don't do that.
Anyway, how do we segue from Godzilla to Warrior?
They're
got it,
both
I got it.
warriors. Boom.
Oh, okay, he got it.
Okay. That's one way of doing it. So, wow. All right. But anyway, we're going to talk a little bit about my favorite show right now, I think. Well, I wouldn't say my favorite show, but it is definitely top 2 or 3 for me. you know?
Yeah.
And that's going to be did I just say that? Cinemaxes Warrior. Okay. So the show came out last year, its first season, right? And it's based on the writings and teachings of Bruce Lee, and it's also executive produced by Bruce Lee's daughter, Shannon Lee, and also Justin Lin, who is one of the producers, and I believe he actually directed some of the Fast and the Furious movies. So, but the other point is that it's also created by Justin Troper, who did one of my other favorite shows on Cinemax, which is Banshee, which ties back to our third topic today because Anthony Starr from The Boys, Homelander, was in Banshee. He was the main character of Banshee.
Yeah.
Which
It's like everything is connected.
everything's connected, right?
Yeah.
So, anyway, Warrior season 1 came out. It stars Andrew Koji, which we will be seeing soon in the G.I. Joe movie for Snake Eyes. He's going to be playing Storm Shadow.
Storm Shadow.
You also have Hoon Lee, who is one of our favorite characters in the show because he was also in Banshee. He was the character that plays Job or Job.
Oh.
Job,
It's Job.
It's Job.
Yeah.
And Joe Talzim is another one of the stars on the show, and we're going to be seeing him in a movie coming up pretty shortly, Mortal Kombat, and he's going to be playing the character of Sub-Zero. So there is some really, really hardcore martial arts street cred in this martial arts spaghetti western show. So just to give our viewers a little bit of backstory on what this show's about, Andrew Koji's character is the main star. He plays Assam, right? And he comes over from China during, it's set in the late 1870s, and it happens in San Francisco, California. And at the time, the sentiment against, Asian immigrants and probably immigrants in general was, let's just put it this way, not very good.
Yeah. A lot of racist people.
Yeah, just to kind of put like a cherry on top, or not so much a cherry, to like encapsulate their whole disposition towards Chinese Americans. You had a little thing they were working on called the Exclusion Act. So, yeah.
That pretty much sucks. So he comes to China in search of his sister, right? That's the whole point of it. But he kind of gets mixed into the politics and the whole thing about what Chinatown in San Francisco is, and eventually he falls into one of these quote unquote tongs, right? And so these tongs are, I guess, what you would call basically Chinese gangs, right?
Yeah.
And so you have separate gangs, and right now the main gang, at least at the time that the show started, was the Hopway,
Yeah.
right? And so he falls in with the Hopway, who is led by Father
June.
Father June, right? And he's like this older gangster slash, leader of the Tong and stuff like that. And Assam befriends his son, Young June, right?
Hey.
And so, they get close and stuff like that, and there are other characters, and the basis of the show is that he does find his sister, and it just turns out that his sister is actually assumed the fake name, right? And she's part of the rival Tong,
The Long Z.
the Long Z, that the Hopway is fighting against. And so you have that whole thing. Eventually things happen. She rises to the top. She now becomes the leader of that Tong. They're selling drugs. They're trying to cut a deal to try and get into the opium market and stuff like that. And madness ensues, and heads are cut off, and people get hatcheted to death, and there's martial arts
And
fights. And
Noses
noses are
get
broken.
punched.
We do see kind of like a call to Mortal Kombat with an X-ray shot, so to speak, right? Yeah. Right. That's the nose thing. So that's basically what Warrior's about. season 2 has just come back in the last two weeks, and so we're up to episode 2. And so at the end of season 1, can you guys let us know what happened?
So at the end of season 1, because they were trying to settle the dispute on who's going to be selling opium, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So what they did was, hey, let's have a tournament. You pit your best fighter against my best fighter, and that'll decide how we divvy up, like, the land that we cover.
Very much like Bloodsport.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you had Assam fight the Long Z's. Ooh, what's his name? Leong.
Who is Jost Halsam, who is Sub-Zero. So basically, you have Storm Shadow
Versus Sub-Zero.
In a hell of a fight.
Yeah. Sub-Zero won, and it looked like he was going to lose. Oh, my gosh. That was a crazy fight. But long story short, Sub-Zero wins, and Assam is kind of broken, and he's like, do I even deserve to be a fighter anymore? I was the best. What am I doing with my life? And so it ends with him not only getting kicked out of the Hop Wave for losing, he goes to work in a factory owned by his lover's father, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Penelope Blake.
Yeah.
The dad. So.
Yeah. And
Byron Mercer is the father.
Yeah, and you didn't. So we're talking about all these tongues. You can't forget the Irishmen. Gosh, those guys are brutal. Because part of the whole "we want the Chinese gone" aspect that they look into in the show is that they're viewed as stealing people's jobs, and this ticks off the Irishmen. So they naturally come into conflict with these Chinese Americans.
They're like if politicians who supported
Careful.
Moving on.
Yeah.
So, and now I lost my train of thought.
There's a lot going on in season 1. So
Yeah.
you were talking about the Irish.
Yes.
Irishmen.
So the Irishmen go to attack Mercer Blake's.
Mercer's,
yes.
Yeah,
So
Mercer Blake's factory.
The Irishman is led by that character Leary, who is like terrifying
Yes.
and awesome at the same time, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Pisses me
So
off.
they go to the factory to mess it up because originally Mercer hired Leary's people, but then because costs were too high or something like that, there was some weird politics going on with that, where basically he was forced to use Chinese labor because they were quote-unquote cheaper.
Right.
And this ticked off Leary, so he said, let's mess up the factory and their workers. And what do you know? Assam was working there at that time. So what they thought was going to be an easy job was really not a massacre, but they got their bleeps handed to them. And this actually prompts Assam to rejoin the Hop Way, who Young Jun wanted him to come back in, but he was like, you guys kicked me out. Get out of here.
And I'm pretty sure he starts to because Atoy
Oh, yes, and that's very important, too.
yeah, she kind of wants to
So who's that toy?
she's the owner of like the
Brothel.
brothel.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so basically she wants to try. Her view on what's going on is like she wants to try and put an end to, I guess, the Chinese being like kicked out and treated badly.
Subjugated, in a
Yes,
word.
yeah. So she wants to put an end to that, and so Assam kind of like finally comes to the realization that there is something you can do, and he kind of like joins Atoy on her quest.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then at the very end, I believe Mercer dies because he has a heart attack. because he couldn't handle like the stress of it all, I guess.
Yeah, it was during an attack on the.
Yeah, the attack on the
yeah,
factory.
the attack on the thing.
There's a
Yeah.
lot going on.
The factory.
And so Penelope steps up and assumes his business.
Who is married to the mayor through an arranged marriage?
Yeah.
The mayor of San Francisco, and he is a piece of work also.
But not as much as his advisor.
Keeping in the tradition of Banshee, right? Because you have in Banshee, you have Kai, and then you have his quote unquote advisor, right hand man, which is also terrifying and crazy at the same time, right? So it seems like, you know, the showrunner likes his crazy sidemen on the side, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and it basically ends with Mai Ling, his Assam's sister. She's in power.
After killing,
After killing Longzi.
There's so much
who
going
was
on.
someone-
yeah, there is a lot going on in this
Yeah.
series. You know, we haven't even mentioned the cops yet.
Oh no. Okay.
Yeah.
So
No?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Mai Ling rises to the head of the tongue because she's assassinated Longzi while blaming it on the Hopway. Found a way to do that.
The Longzi also, they affiliate themselves with the quote unquote Mongols, right?
Yes, they're called the Funghai.
Yep.
Hmm.
Which are also terrifying in that, unlike the Hopway and the Longzi, they have no morals. They have no code. They just, you know,
Just kill.
yeah,
Eat, sleep, and kill.
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Assam finds his, like Eli said, he finds his calling, so to speak, and he gets back into fighting again because after he got beaten, like, he was really messed up.
Especially
So now we're into season 2.
Yes.
Okay, so we're definitely into season 2. Season 1 ended up with everybody kind of along the way. Like I said, we haven't even talked about the cops yet.
Yeah, and that's
You
an
know.
interesting story, too.
Yeah, so there are 2 cops in this. There's one that's called Big Bill O'Hara, right? And he's... How would you describe him? Because in a way, he does seem like he has a he seems like he wants to be a good guy,
He's jaded.
right? But he's been in San
Yeah.
Francisco for so long, and he's seen everything that's happened. And I think he was at the point of close to retiring or something, or he was.
Yeah, he was
Well, remember, he was thrust into this role of policing Chinatown at the very
Yeah.
beginning of season 1,
I
and he
remember
didn't
that.
want to do it at all because he knew it was going to be a crap job,
Yeah.
right? So there's this. So the police are very biased, obviously, against Chinatown and against the Chinese immigrants.
Yeah.
You know, and you have this guy who, basically, he is the same way, and I think a big part of the reason, and again, a lot of the times with ignorance, is that, you know, you don't know the other side, right? You don't know the culture and stuff like that. And once you get to know them, then maybe some of that ignorance and some of that bias goes away, which did happen in season 1 in the jail scene with Assam.
To
right?
a certain extent.
So Assam is different from all the other onions, as they call them in the show, right?
yeah.
Because he can actually speak the Queen's English, the Queen's language, right?
Yep.
He speaks English. He's one of the very few. I think there's other two characters. is-
Toy,
and
oof.
Wang Chan,
Yeah.
which is Hun Lee's character.
Yeah.
The guy that's shady, that's always doing deals.
That's Chow.
Chow.
Yeah. What did I say? Yeah, Wang Chow.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So he seems, going back to Big Bill, he seems like he's a guy that maybe deep down inside is a good character, but like Eli said, he's jaded. He's used to, or was that you, AJ?
Yeah, that was
AJ. AJ said it. he's jaded and he's kind of been beat down with the situation, and he, just like everybody else, sees the immigrants as an occupying and invading force in San Francisco.
And then,
But he kind of changes in a way, but
Yeah.
then he gets stuck in a really bad situation also.
then we also have the character Lee,
Richard Lee.
Richard Lee,
He's the other cop that we follow.
and
The only good one.
the only good one, the one that's not biased and is not racist whatsoever.
But he has a backstory that,
Blew my mind.
yeah, it's weird, right? So
Yeah.
he's not native from San Francisco. He's actually coming from the South. And when we see him, there's all these questions of why are you here? You don't belong in San Francisco. You're a Southern boy. And he always hits Big Bill with all these Southern expressions that Big Bill has, like, I don't know what you're talking about.
But we find out that Lee is actually, wait, what? Like
He had a girlfriend.
He had a girlfriend,
who was,
but-
black, right?
yeah.
Yes.
And then
He came from Georgia.
Yeah.
Wait, did he shoot?
No, what happened was two of his cousins were, they saw that he was going out with this girl, and they were like, dude, you're white. What are you doing? Typical racist nonsense. And so they actually end up killing her.
And
And
then-
in an act of retribution, Lee
He-
says, yeah, you know what? You two are dying. I
And
don't
he,
care that you're my
like,
cousins.
shoots
I
him down.
loved her. What the hell? Bam, bam.
Yeah. And
So now he's wanted for murder, and that explains why he's in San Francisco
but then
as a cop.
since wait, I believe that what's his face, Big Bill, he was kind of like, I really don't remember. He was kind of trying like find out more about Lee so that the people, whoever was, they came in and they said that he was wanted for murder.
Yeah, there was a bounty hunter, right?
Yes.
A bounty hunter.
Yeah.
And
Still in season 1 back again.
then
Season 1 is deep. And it's only 8 episodes, which is crazy,
wait,
right?
8
Yeah, it was only 8 episodes.
Yeah, but then the table turns again. The turntables turn again.
No, 12 episodes, my bad.
I mean the tables turn again
episodes.
when Bill actually brings out people who kill the bounty hunters.
Well, no,
Well,
they got arrested.
they got arrested.
Yeah.
And then it was very confusing because I originally thought that Bill was actually gonna turn in Lee to the
Yeah, it
bounty
really
hunter,
looked like
but
it.
then it turned out that they had the bounty hunter arrested, and then Lee is actually a bad person. Well, not necessarily from it. It depends on your perspective. So it was in that episode. It was very, very
Crazy.
dramatic and suspenseful.
Yeah.
Windy and complicated.
But
So-
anyway,
Big Bill, gets into a problem because one of his vices is that he's a big, heavy gambler.
yeah.
Right? One of the things that this third tongue is involved in is gambling.
Yep.
So eventually, what happens?
The Feng Hai, the Tong who runs the gambling, say, yeah, we notice you're in debt, and you're a cop. That can actually be used to our advantage. See, we need you to crack down on people like you who don't know when to stop and need to pay up. So, what we're going to have you do? You're going to be our, what would it be, hustler? Or what would be the term for that?
I guess enforcer,
Enforcer, yes.
debt collector.
Yeah, that's basically what Bill is reduced to, and at the same time he's a cop, and that's even more
So
complicated.
it's very
So,
crazy.
So that's season 1 in a very, very long nutshell.
And in a very short nutshell, but we'll elaborate on it. Just a quick rundown of where all our characters are at. Assam, back in the Hopway, is not satisfied with the deal reached by the Long Z and the Hopway. So now he's breaking out with Young Jun to get in on the opium trade and try to mess with the Long Z's profession. Mai Ling is still as ruthless as ever, and
Maybe
still
even worse, right?
Yeah, maybe even worse, and is doing whatever it takes to, I am the leader now. Respect me. I'm gonna, displays of power, all that nice, not nice stuff. Bill is still the debt collector, messing people up for, where's the money? Or I'll, you're gonna go see the White Mountain, and that was a really cool thing. Not
Lee.
Bill, Lee. Lee, who was injured in the previous season, is still practically his good self, but the problem is because of the medication he's taking, he's kind of getting addicted to drugs, and that's making things a little,
Swanky.
yeah. You also have
Penelope?
Yes, Penelope, who is still trying to run her father's business,
Despite
and
the objections of the mayor, who
Her
wants
husband.
who wants her to sell the thing because he wants her to be the submissive wife, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's also bad for his political career because he is saying that we should get rid of the Chinese immigrants,
But she's
yet-
hiring Chinese.
Exactly. So
You also have
mayor.
the mayor, who is two-faced as ever. We need to be stricter on these thugs, and at the same, he's basically just trying to work his base, keep his vote there. I want to be mayor for the next term.
he's basically a politician.
Most
Yeah.
biased one ever.
And I feel like there's someone else I'm forgetting that's also very, very
Mr.
important.
Mr. Blakely, I think is his name, right? Isn't
Mr. Motley.
Oh, Mr. Motley. Yes, Mr. Motley. The second-hand man to the mayor.
Yes, and he, oh God, if
So
you
he-
think that the mayor is crooked and two-faced, this guy is even worse, because he's facilitating the opium trade through Mai Ling, the leader of the Long Z.
Yeah, they have an agreement.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if they have an agreement now anymore, but they did
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
And that's still running. You also, what?
Yeah. Young Jun.
Young Jun, who, again, is working with Assam to, he's not good with this pact between the Long Z and the Hopway, and so, he's kind of rebelling against that, trying to find his way in the world.
And Father Jun, who's
Yes.
the elder statesman, despite the fact that he runs the thing, he's kind of old school in a way, right?
Yeah.
Very.
Because he keeps telling Young Jun, relax. I actually have been doing this for a while. We're trying to, the what's
Not the Hopway, the Long Z.
the Long Z, they think they have equal footing on us, but you know what? Now's not the time to strike. Let them get comfortable. Let them get complacent. When the time is right, that's when I'll do my thing. So he's a little bit more. I don't want to say conniving. He's more.
He knows how to do the long game.
Right, exactly. He's playing the long game where Young Jun is kind of this impetuous young kid who said, you know what, screw that. We shouldn't be giving them anything. Let's fight them. Let's kill them all. Let's do all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So that's where season 2 is going. That's where it starts, right? How do you guys feel about season 2 so far? Season 1 was good in my opinion, right?
It was amazing.
Yep.
And this is doing very well so far, also. Just seeing how all these different... Like, you saw how long it took us just to flesh out these characters, and that's not even doing them justice. When you see all of them interacting with each other, it's like... It's so awesome, because, it's just really awesome characterization, and then in the setting they're in and how that pushes them. This is really well done.
To me, I know you guys.
Corny.
You guys can guess.
Oh god.
Corny.
It's not corny. It's very slow. The start of the season, at least in my opinion, somewhat slow to get into the action.
The
I think-
very first episode was with a swordsman, who, by the way, is
okay.
Atoy.
I know, but it's. I feel like they're building their characters more. They're just building the characters even more, which is, I don't know.
I think I get what you're saying, because especially towards the end of season 1, it was such a breakneck pace that they were on. Like, there was fights and stuff all the time. And I think with the start of season 2, we're back to building the story and finding out what the big problem is, which it seems like it's going to be that third tongue. You know, they're really, really screwing with the norm here.
Yeah.
Especially in that second episode, which we just saw, right?
Yeah.
Well,
so it's
Technically, it isn't them.
Right.
Because they were used as like a... See, the thing with the Feng Hai is that they have an agreement with the Long Z, but oftentimes the Feng Hai are used as like this missile. You just point it at someone and they'll just go off on them.
Yeah. I think the problem is Mei Ling utilized them in their fight against the Hop Wei, and I think she miscalculated how difficult it is to keep them under control and keep them reined in, because the leader is a guy where he just doesn't care, and I don't think he respects her that much either.
But all in all, I it's not as good as the first season, but yes, like you said, it's building the characters. It's not as suspenseful, and it's just that. Okay, it's
Alright.
just that. I would
That's
give it,
fine. Listen,
but
we're still two episodes
episodes
into the
in.
season. There's another 8 episodes coming up, so there's a lot of stuff that can happen from now until the finale.
yeah,
Yeah. So, yes. Me?
yeah, you.
Yeah. So I happen to think that, again, I'm enjoying Warrior for what it is. And like I said, season 2, it is a little slow. I will grant you that. But you know what? I think the characters are so fascinating, right? They've done such a good job in the previous season of letting us know who they are and fleshing out not only their characters but the story and just the setting itself, right? It also there's very clear lines as to where people can go and people can't. It's almost like there's a line drawn in the sand where, you know, if you're Chinese, you can't cross that line, and then if you're anybody else, you can't go into Chinatown and stuff, because you know. So I happen to enjoy it. I'm looking forward to the rest of the season. So all right, so that's Cinemax's The Warrior.
And you know what makes this great?
What is that?
Just like in Warrior, we have characters that are haunted, like the characters in The Haunting of Bly Manor.
Oh,
there you go.
that was
That was
smooth.
a good segue. I will admit that. So, tell us a little bit more about Netflix's Haunting of Bly Manor.
So originally, season 1, here's the way that this series is set up. So season 1 saw the events surrounding the haunting of Hill House, which was a separate story all on its own, but at its core was about the haunting at Hill House, ghosts and whatnot. Season 2 is still dealing with hauntings and whatnot, but this time at a different location, which is in Bly, London, if I'm correct.
Yes.
And it's also using the same cast, or most of the same cast. Different roles, not the same characters either, because, this is Bly Manor.
Yeah,
not
they're
Hill
doing
House.
they're doing kind of what American Horror Story does, is that every single season is going to be an the series is called an anthology, right? So every season is a different story, and what American Horror Story does is that they kind of recycle the actors and put them in different characters every season. So it seems like Mike Flanagan, who is the director and the creator of this show, is kind of doing the same thing.
Yeah. And so we saw the first episode, and the first episode starts us off with, wow. There was a little thing last season where it was like Find the Casper or something like that, where they would have ghosts weaved into the background episode by episode. But Eli brought something to our attention that is even more interesting. Well, it's in the same line, but I think I'll let Eli elaborate on this one.
Oh, okay. Apparently, just in case you're gonna watch it, here's a quick heads up.
Oh, yes, spoiler warning. This is spoilery.
Oh, yeah.
Just the first episode,
Heads up.
not for the season.
In case you want to try and find them, which I doubt you will even get close to finding any of them. Well, some of them. There are 20 ghosts hidden throughout the entire first episode.
And the first episode is like 50 minutes long. So that's almost a ghost every, what do you say, 2 minutes?
2 minutes, not including the guy with... Spoiler.
We'll get into that.
Yeah.
We'll get into
But
that.
the guy with the...
We'll get into that.
The anime guy.
Yeah, we'll get into it. Oh,
Anime guy.
you see him at the very beginning of the thing, right?
So technically there are 19 ghosts that appear throughout the entire...
Well, he shows
Wait.
up a couple of times, though.
Okay, wait.
We don't specifically know what his deal is.
When I read the article, it included the first time you saw him, which is
At the very beginning.
at the very beginning. So, if anything, there would be about maybe
So let me
23
ask you a
sightings.
question. Each sighting, is
24.
it a different ghost, or is it like ghost recycled? You know what I'm saying?
Well, the thing about the ghost sightings is it's really hard to tell what exactly the
shadows?
ghost looks like. It might be the same. Yeah, it's just like it's honestly too dark to even see them because it's in like dark corners or it might be in the window. But
That's
I
a cool
think-
little game to play, though.
Yeah.
When you're watching the episode,
but that again
spot the ghosts.
that again raises the question:
Where's
why?
Waldo?
Why?
Wow.
But I'm gonna point out 2 ghosts.
Okay.
First, we have the anime dude. These are the main ghosts that
So
we've
why
seen so
do you
far.
call him the anime dude?
Okay. This
Please
is gonna.
explain that. Because I've seen a
Meme
couple of
review.
memes, but I need you to explain why he's the anime ghost.
Meme
the anime
review.
guy.
Well, not meme review, but okay, it's a reference to PewDiePie, but we call him the anime guy because generally in animes we have characters who have circly glasses, but for some reason, whenever it's a dramatic moment, their glasses turn white because there's like a huge glimmer. So that's generally why I call him the anime guy and why there are memes about it because
Glowing
it looks
glasses.
yeah. So we have that dude, and apparently it's a really, really important ghost in the story because we see him you'll notice him like
He
all
shows up,
throughout.
like four
Four
times.
times.
Mhm.
Yeah, and generally, it seems like it's attached to one of the main character, Danny. So it might be somebody from her past. I don't know. We also have another ghost that was seen briefly, but it seems like it's an important ghost.
Yeah, because he's the one that we see very, very clearly, right?
Yeah. It's a little bit dark, but you can see it has a beak. So it looks kind of like a plague doctor.
Yeah, it does.
But otherwise, those are 20 ghosts. I mean, the 24 ghost sightings.
Okay. So what's the story about?
Well, it follows this. Well, it opens up with there being a wedding. And at this wedding, one of the participants is telling a story. Who, it's not clear who exactly she is yet, but I have a feeling that no, that's not Danny. No, that can't be.
I have a theory.
She's officially listed as the character's name, the Storyteller.
Okay.
So there you go.
All right,
Okay.
the storyteller.
Anyway,
And
continue.
so
I'm
the
sorry.
storyteller is telling the story of Danny coming to work at Bly Manor because the guy who hires her explains that there are these two children, his niece and nephew. Their parents died not even in the house. It's still unclear
Right.
when they died. No, not when they died, how they died.
We don't know how whether this guy is shady or not.
Yeah.
We're still a little up in the air on that.
So there's that. But apparently this ad has been out for 6 months and no one's wanted to take it. In part because one of the people they did hire, her name was
Rebecca.
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 Okay. We'll just call her Rebecca. That was her first name.
Yeah.
As she was taking care of the kids, she actually goes and kills herself. And so that kind of gives the area and Bly Manor in general some bad juju when it comes to, like, people.
Drowned herself in a lake, which is
Yes.
important because something that... Okay.
We were getting to that.
Yeah.
So,
Remember, though, the uncle makes it a point of stressing during the interview about imagination, superstitions, and things of that nature, right?
mhm.
And that's partly the reason why 6 months have passed, because first of all, the Bly Manor already has bad juju, right? People are generally afraid of it, and then to have the caretaker of the kids kill herself just adds to that.
Yeah.
So
And so Danny goes to work over there. And these two kids, they seem relatively fine at first.
it's what's the thing that the girl says?
Perfectly splendid.
Perfectly splendid, right? She says that like how many times during that first episode?
It's
Yeah.
like her word.
Yeah.
Like the what was the doctor's word? I know he had a word for a little bit.
The doctor. Wait.
The good great house.
I don't. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. For some reason, they keep saying the same thing, which is
Well, that's
perfectly splendid
because
and good great house.
well, yeah,
Good
that's
house.
kind of a literary thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, so you have the niece. She seems okay, except for a few odd instances where it's like, oh, like there's trauma there.
Creepy girl though.
Yeah, creepy.
Yeah.
Like she has this whole doll collection, but there's this one that she insists has to stay like under a drawer in
And
darkness.
And that's like the only one that's like faceless.
yeah.
Yeah.
It kind of looks like a Slenderman, right?
It
With
looks
hair.
like
With hair,
the girl from The Grudge
with no face.
with no face. So like the girl from The Ring.
Well, the girl herself, Flora, right?
Yeah, Flora.
Yeah.
She's creepy as it is because like at one second she'll be like super happy walking around saying perfectly splendid, and then all of a sudden she'll be like, no, you can't touch that. No, that needs to stay where it is. You know, she's like really, really weird.
Yeah.
At least her brother Miles is.
He's not a peach.
Yeah.
He's not a peach, but he's not as creepy as Flora is.
Yeah, he's a little bit.
He's more level.
Just because he's level doesn't mean.
No. He's creepy, but like Flora is like super creepy. Like she'll be like I said before, she'd be like, hey, and then all of a sudden, go back and forth and stuff. You know what I'm saying?
But I think I find what was it, Mike?
Miles.
Or Miles?
Miles.
I find him more unsettling because he's always that monotone. Can you do it's just the way he
Here's my
carries
spider.
himself. Yeah.
Are you afraid of spiders? Can I interest you in holding the spider?
And
Which Danny blows off, by the way. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, but Flora runs away like a bat out of hell. She's like, what?
Yeah. The case in point, these two kids are
Very traumatized.
yeah.
Very traumatized.
but
And then you have the other caretaker
Yeah.
who never eats.
Hannah Gross.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Miss Gross.
Grouse or Gross. Hannah.
Yeah. And then, well, she's not particularly weird. It's just that it's a little
She
odd
never
that
eats.
yeah.
yeah.
And then, well, the tea, you kind of get it. It probably wasn't good. Because Danny tried making tea, and even the kids were like, dude, this is not tea.
Yeah, she's like full American, in London. She drinks coffee. She doesn't have a handle on tea. And apparently she makes a horrible spot of tea. So,
Yeah.
not good.
The only normal kind of guy around here is
Owen,
Owen.
the driver / cook.
Yeah, / other caretaker. And the kids seem fine around him, too. He's like probably, aside from Miss Gross, one of the only stable... Those two characters seem like the only two people that have actually stuck around.
And you wonder why. Because we just saw a movie that totally blew our minds, right? We saw
I
Two
don't
Sisters.
I don't want to know. I
And-
don't want to revisit that.
And that movie was really. Listen. I would recommend that movie if you guys want to watch a Korean horror movie. Now, mind you, it's not the easiest movie to follow. You're gonna have to spend at least a good 2 hours talking about it with your boys to try and figure out what's going on. But it makes you kind of wonder, right?
It definitely does have the disturbing factor, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Owen, he's about as close to normal, but he still has these weird little tics, right?
But
Like there was
does.
he's during that first episode he makes these weird comments. Like remember when he was like eat your food and then he went to go answer the phone and he did a snide remark underneath his breath.
yeah, I
didn't
caught that too.
catch
Yeah,
that.
he's got this like weird tick and
I thought I misheard that.
right he did say that.
Yeah.
Say what?
He
can't
said something
remember what
bad
he said.
about like Danny or something.
Yeah, he was like he said he's not
Yeah.
100% normal. There's something going on.
Yeah,
with
he
him.
was like talking about like relax about Danny, and then he like said something about like maybe she can't relax or something like that.
Oh,
Yeah.
or as close as you can get to relaxing.
Yeah, he's got this passive aggressiveness that comes out, but in a
But I don't
way
think
that
that was
people
directed
don't hear.
towards Danny. I think that was
Yeah,
more so like
for Hannah.
no, for the kids.
Oh, for the kids, right? But there's something there.
There
He's
has to be
not-
something.
He's not. They wouldn't highlight that by taking him out and having them answer the phone, which a phone call that apparently keeps getting made to Bly Manor, but nobody says it.
It's like a prank call.
Nobody says anything.
And I don't know if this is important, but his
I'm
mom
facing
is
the
sick.
hiccups right now. Sorry.
It's okay. But his mom is sick. But I mean, I get it might not be important, but like what is she sick
It's
with? It might help.
important in its own way. Well, they'll probably elaborate on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what is important is that Flora likes leaving these little dolls all around the grounds, and it's like what Hannah said. They're like these protective charms.
It looks a little bit like something from Supernatural and witchcraft, right?
Yeah, like voodoo dolls.
But you forgot one thing. Miles.
What about Miles?
Remember when he hands? So basically, when Danny is like,
oh yes, when Danny
when-
first arrived, he gives Danny something that belonged to their former caretaker, and
It
that
doesn't say anything.
yeah, and that sets Flora off.
That was a weird scene, though, wasn't it?
That
Yeah.
was clearly meant to be. He
it
was
belonged
trying
to-
to instigate something.
it belonged to Rebecca, I believe.
Yeah, Rebecca.
Yeah, but the whole scene was weird because she's in there being a bubble bath gremlin, right? That's what she called
But-
herself.
Yeah.
And she's talking to Danny, but every once in a while, she would like stare past Danny as if she was speaking to, or somebody was speaking to her.
Yeah, because
while- while Danny was, and Danny kept on looking back and saying, "Is everything all right?"
There-
you know.
like there was a point, like what she said was like, you can't have that, but then all of a sudden she looked straight past Danny, and then she was like, oh, never mind, you can keep it.
Yeah, it was.
And
Like
it was like-
something there was actually talking to her while she was talking to Danny, and then that presence or whatever you want to call it. She was like, "Nah, that's cool. You could keep it,"
Well, I can't tell if that was nice though. Nicer meant to be
or something deeper.
like, is the thing cursed? Is she just being nice and
Well,
letting her
here's
have
the
it?
thing. I don't think that they were intentionally trying to curse her. I don't know about Miles though. That guy is sus.
Miles is weird
Very
because
sus.
of that scene, right?
Yeah,
That
but
other scene.
perhaps the weirdest thing that happened this episode, aside from a possible ghost sighting from the dude that was the drug addict last season.
The dude that was Oliver Jackson.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like he was
Yeah,
on
he
like
was there.
He was there.
Oh yeah,
he was the guy
there.
on
he
the
was the guy on the
balcony.
The balcony.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Aside from that, there was this really, oh, wow. Towards the very end of the episode, you wanted to
yeah.
say something?
No, never mind.
Okay. So towards the very end of the episode, Danny's tucking them in for bed, and
Gosh.
and she finds the doll on the floor, the really weird faceless one that's probably evil.
That's usually supposed to be underneath the dresser drawer.
But it wasn't. It was like smack in the middle of the floor,
And then-
more so towards the footboard of Flora's
Yeah.
bed.
She
So
like
she
kicked it
was-
over.
But remember this, she was leaving Flora because she had already tucked Flora in, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she was underneath the covers. And she walks and I guess she kicks the doll because she didn't know it was there.
I think she steps on it.
Yeah,
actually.
she steps on it. She picks it up and she turns back. And what's up with Flora?
She's just standing there.
Like,
Bro.
like that was like super weird, right?
Well, no, I think she was still in the bed first.
Yeah, but,
then
like all of a sudden, it wasn't that long of a
yeah,
a
she
time,
went
right?
to look at like Miles's room or something, and then
Yeah.
when she looked back, Flora was there like out of the bed.
Yeah, and just standing there with that weird look that she's really good at giving,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
like a possessed look.
So what happens is Danny's like, okay, I've clearly struck a nerve here. So she tries to give the little doll figurine back and puts it on the bed or something.
He
And
says you could sleep with this one
Yeah.
today.
and then Miles goes, and this is very deliberate because of what happens next. He goes, hey, can you get me something from that closet over there? I absolutely
Fan.
needed to sleep. A fan. And she goes, oh, okay, sure. As long as you go to sleep, you know? And she goes in the closet. And both of them start walking over to the closet, and Danny was still very close to the door. And they go, well, we actually think it's further in there, if you could look over there. And then she goes and starts going over there. And then Miles takes it upon himself, and Flora doesn't stop him, which I'm assuming she's in on it at this point.
Yeah, they both look at each other before
Yeah.
Miles does it.
Yeah.
He goes and closes the door to the closet and locks Danny in.
There are two imposters among us.
So there's something
Two imposters.
significant about that because in that closet was a mirror.
Yeah, there was a mirror.
And the mirror has been kind of a through point for that first episode because going back to Anime Guy, every time that Danny
sees anime
sees
guy.
anime guy. It's a mirror to the point that at the hostel that she was living in before she got to Bly Manor, she had put sheets on every single mirror in her room. So now she's stuck in a house that she's not familiar with, locked up in a closet by two kids that, by most standards, I guess you would say they're kind of creepy or disturbed, right?
Yeah.
With a mirror,
And
right
she
behind
starts
her.
freaking out like a
Big
lot.
time.
And it was a good, 3-5 minutes before they let her
Something
out
like that.
again?
And she kept on, and it wasn't even the fact that they weren't there. She was saying, "Open the door," and they kept on saying, "Oh, we can't. Oh, the lock is missing. Oh, the key is missing. Oh, the lock is broken." All this stuff, when clearly, when they locked her in, the key was in the door.
Yeah.
And so she's banging on the door hysterical while these two kids are outside, God knows doing what. And, she's pleading with them, open the door, and they're like hesitating to open the door, and they finally do, right?
Well, I think it's not that they hesitated. I think they were trying to fix something, but
Right, that's what I'm saying. God
Yeah.
knows what they were doing on the other side of that door, because they never showed them. They only showed Danny for those 3 to 5 minutes.
yeah.
Yeah.
So they finally let her out, and Danny was obviously pissed. So they were like, "Sorry, we didn't know," or something, something like that, some BS excuse. And they were like, "All right, we'll go to bed now." And the very last scene of the episode shows that creepy faceless doll back where it belongs.
Well, she goes outside.
Well, okay, obviously, but the very last scene of the episode is the doll being where it belongs.
So why did she go outside again? So
Yeah.
right after that incident, she ends up going outside of the manor, right? Is it?
She-
oh,
it looked
finds
like she
the-
was trying to leave.
No. Remember,
No.
she found the footprints on the floor.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So she walks out of their bedroom, visibly shaken already, right?
Yeah.
And then she looks down, and it's like muddy footprints, right?
Yeah, muddy footprints.
And so she follows that, and she sees that the door is wide open, and she ends up going out into the courtyard.
Yeah, to see what's going on. And then, when she turns back, it's one of those, like, the kids are in the window looking down, like...
In two separate windows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From their rooms, like, "We're watching you." Yeah, and it was just...
It is a creepy start to the show. How do you compare it to Hill House, though?
I think Hill House is very different, because what happens with Hill House is that they have a family that's living in the house, and then because of some supernatural event / someone dying in the family, they get split up and separated, and so they're off doing their own thing. But this one, in this The Haunting of Bly Manor, you're talking about, okay, well, there's obviously some tragedy that's happened, but it's not been, like, it doesn't show that they've abandoned the house at all.
No.
No.
And it doesn't seem like it was an event that happened too far off, right?
Yeah.
Because the kids, and forgive me if I'm wrong, I think the kids still remember the parents, right?
Yes, they do.
And literally the thing that happened with the caretaker was within the 6 months prior to the where the show is.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so you're not dealing with two different, because what they did was, in season 1, Hill House, they were switching between time zones, or not time zones, like different periods in time.
Mhm.
You're not having that this season, so
Well, at least not yet.
well, yeah, not yet.
Yeah, because again, we've only seen the first episode. But yeah, like I think the difference, it's funny because they're both dealing with trauma and they're both dealing with tragedy, right? But I think in the other one, the first season of well, I guess you want to call it first season, right? The Haunting series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
you had adult kids that separated from the traumatic events that happened before, and they were brought back by the house, so to speak.
Yeah.
Right. In this one, it seems like, well, you're dealing already with a different dynamic because you're dealing with young children, which the story taker, when she started her story with the people in the wedding, you know, they were telling basically ghost stories because I think the couple was supposed to stay. Now, let me ask you a question. Was that Bly Manor that they were in?
I believe it was.
Okay. They never really mentioned it was, but they mentioned how this place was scary and, you know, we wanted to be here, but even the bride to be was like, I don't want to stay here. And that's where all these ghost stories started.
She saw the nun.
Yeah, well, she saw, yeah. And then that's when the storyteller was like, you know, somebody mentioned, oh, well, it's a creepy story when you're dealing with a kid. And then she's like, well, what about a ghost story with 2 kids? You know? So, you know, you're already dealing with a different dynamic because now it's adult children versus young children. And it's not that the house is bringing them back because guess what? They're already there.
Yeah.
So we're actually seeing the events play kind of like in real time, you know?
For the most part.
Yeah.
I honestly feel like Hill House was a lot more creepy
I agree with that.
because, like,
Especially that first episode, right? The
Yeah,
first
because-
episode of Hill House was like, whoa, what are we seeing here?
Yeah, one thing that really struck me about like the first episode, I believe, was when like one of the characters was like dancing with literally nobody, and that's it was
Mom, right?
Huh?
Was it the mom?
No, it was like one of the daughters,
Oh, yeah.
and it absolutely like struck me for no random reason other than that it was just weird and disturbing, but this episode didn't really give me that creepy vibe, and it not necessarily to the point that Hill House gave off that vibe.
It
but
almost feels more like a mystery than a horror series right
Yes.
now.
Yeah.
Like I said, right now, because it's only one episode, but, you know, there is a difference between that first season and how that started and this season, right?
Yeah, and that's just honestly how I feel about the first episode. I can't wait for the second episode, which we might watch after.
Yeah.
But
We were trying to binge as much as possible, but there was just way too much stuff to do. So,
yeah,
you know.
but it's not disturbing to the point that Hill House was. That's it
Yeah.
for now.
Well, we'll revisit this, you know, once we get deeper into it, and then maybe we'll give it a full review at that time,
Yeah.
Yes.
right? I mean, you know, you have the girl and the boy, so I guess now what should we talk about?
The boys, plural.
The season finale of Prime Video's The Boys, season 2.
Wow.
Like, I don't even know how to start this, right? Like, what did you guys think of the finale?
That was nuts. That was very crazy, and some of our prophecies came to fruition. but-
Very few of them, though.
Yeah, I said some,
Yeah.
not all. Some, not all.
Yeah.
But wow, that was. Oh,
It was too much drama. It was so much drama.
that's what made it so good.
I know.
It's just, my mind is blown by that episode. That episode was crazy. But you know, there were a couple of things that, you know, I looked at and I was like, I wish there was more. I don't know if you agree with that.
What do you mean if there was more?
I wish. There's a part of me that wishes that this season was longer.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
I think as crazy as this season, I actually think that in some respects this season was better than the first season.
Oh,
Yeah. I'll give you that.
But I
Definitely.
think the shortness of the season.
You just want more.
Well, I think
Yeah.
I think some
It's like-
characters would have benefited with a longer season. Characters like Stormfront, because
She's not gone.
right, but you
But-
know, you wonder if they're going to focus on her in season 3. She's in a pretty bad place, and again, we don't necessarily know that she's not gone
No.
because. So let's talk about the episode first.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes,
let's
and
let's go into the episode.
because
don't you
it's
give
so
us-
fresh, spoiler warning.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is a spoiler warning. We are going to get into very specific things about the season finale. So, if you want, pause this podcast, go watch the episode, and then come back and join us so that you know we can all have a discussion on this. But that being said, AJ, give us that synopsis.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You've been warned. So this episode, in the episode previous to the season finale, Homelander and Stormfront in effect kidnap Homelander's son from his mother, Becca. They kind of use their little twisty finagling to get him to angry at her, and so that he's like, hey, you know what, I'm gonna go with them.
Yeah, he basically
Yeah.
told them everything that was going on.
Yeah.
You know, he's been
Sheltered.
in essence sheltered. Well, you can make the case he's been held captive without his knowledge, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can. So you have that. Homelander and Stormfront were really trying to cultivate the superhero in him, failing at it. And they also failed in the sense that the first time he's ever been introduced to society, he almost had a mental breakdown because, hey, you know what? Let's take this kid who's only ever seen one person, maybe two people in his life, and introduce him to a whole swath of people.
The Planet Hollywood fake Planet Vought. Right? I mean, literally. I love how they parody a lot of these real life locations and a lot of the stuff when it comes to like the MCU and things like that. They
Yeah.
do it so well, you know.
Yeah,
So they basically just walk in
they
a
do.
crowded restaurant, and honestly though, what did they think was going to happen?
I think Homelander wanted to show how, look, your dad, he's there. He's there. Look,
You think
that
so?
kid. Yeah, I honestly do think so, because
I think he was so daft that he thought that he was just gonna walk in and they were gonna have a nice family lunch.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
You know?
yeah, exactly. And also, he was trying to self-ingratiate himself.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, we do see that in the episode, right? How
Very
how much
end.
of an egomaniac he is. Well, we've known that from the start, but
Yeah.
now, if there was any doubt, well, there's none.
Well, there was never any. Yeah. So you had that. Then you also
That
had
goes really bad, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
instead of them just sitting down,
the kid has a mental breakdown.
because
There's so many
freaking
people.
Homelander walks into a restaurant, you don't think he's gonna be mobbed by like every single person there, especially since the restaurant is called Planet
Planet
Vought.
Vought.
So that means they're there because they're fans of the Seven.
Yeah.
So I mean, but yeah, like you said, that goes horribly wrong because the kid just really Ryan goes crazy.
Yeah.
He
Well, he
can't
doesn't go
handle it.
crazy in the sense that it's a manifestation of his powers. It was a sensory overload. He just couldn't handle it.
Stormfront was pissed. Stormfront, when he walked out and
Yeah.
left her,
Oh yeah.
she
That-
gave
was
him
a
that
little-
look. She wasn't happy with him choosing Ryan over her.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So she was angry at that point, which that'll show up later in the episode. But continue.
Yeah. So you have that. And then you also have Rebecca making her way to the boys because they were planning to just clean up shop, kill them all.
With guns, which infuriates me because obviously
Well, there were some specially modified guns. Like they had one for Stormfront that could work in theory, which all their weapons are practically in theory.
Yeah, but they never work.
Well, I mean, except
Well-
for that one time.
Yeah. The one time out of the 500 times that they've tried.
Yeah.
You know?
So you have Becca comes and is like, "Hey, let's get my son back," and Billy Butcher's like, "Yeah, okay, sure." But even before that, Billy Butcher goes to after that, right?
Right. So he doesn't know of the kidnapping until Becca gets there.
Yes.
And then you have the great interactions with Becca and the rest of the boys, right? Like she's like a celebrity when she walks in, especially when Frenchie is giving her like the ham sandwich. He's just like in awe of her, and then she's like, "Oh, Huey's like the best. We had a great conversation," and Butcher is giving her a kiss, and they're all like looking at him. Like, it's like, oh, and he was like, "Oh, shut up, you C's." I'm not gonna use the word because this is a family-friendly podcast, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. But
So at that point, that's when Butcher begins to concoct the plan to save Ryan.
quote unquote.
Right.
Yeah.
And well, exactly. So explain that, please.
So his plan, quote unquote, to save, quote unquote, Ryan, quote unquote, was to go to none other than Mr. Edgar,
Quote unquote.
the big man himself.
Quote unquote.
And so he basically tries to cut a deal with Mr. Edgar, saying, "Hey, we found out that Homelander has the kid, and I want to help you get the kid." And Mr. Edgar's like, "Oh, this is actually pretty interesting, but why would I want to take the kid away from Homelander?" And, Butcher's like, "Well, do you really want him with Homelander, seeing as he's like your contingency plan if Homelander becomes too unstable and whatnot?" And Mr. Edgar, he humors him at that point, and he says, "Okay, so what do you have in mind?" "Well, I'm going to have my guys come and get the kid out." And Mr. Edgar's like, "All right, well, that's all well and good." And he says, "Well, it's going to get even better because I'm going to give the kid to you."
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, Mr. Edgar's like, "Huh, really? What do you think the mom's going to say about that?" And Billy Butcher is just like, "Yeah, we're just not going to tell her about that. She's going to be left out of this equation."
Yeah, he was like,
Yeah.
"You get Ryan, I get my
them."
wife
Yeah.
back," And then Mr. Edgar is like, that they have a great conversation, right? Because they're talking about how Mr. Edgar is kind of like Two-Face in the whole thing when it comes to Vought and specifically when it comes to Stormfront.
Yeah.
Because Stormfront, and there's a side thing to that also. And did that happen before their yes, it did happen before their discussion. So there was a side mission while Butcher was going and getting this plan.
Oh, to bring back. Okay.
There was another plan that Starlight and Huey concocted.
Oh,
Oh,
Which
yes.
yeah.
is
Okay.
super important to the conversation that Butcher and Edgar has, right?
Yes, definitely.
So maybe we should talk about that first.
So, not Billy. Why was I about to say Billy? Huey and Starlight were going. What? They were just trying to find some information to
Right.
take Vought down.
Because I think what they were planning on doing was hit. Oh no, they actually did. Their backup plan, their first plan, got screwed because originally they were going to have Lamplighter testify. That didn't go well because he barbecued himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other plan was to have Vogelbaum testify.
He got
That
blown up.
that went bad when his head got popped, along with a whole bunch of other people in Congress. So the third plan was to get Queen Maeve involved because
Yes.
Queen Maeve already had kind of like a coming to Jesus moment, I guess, right? When she helped Starlight against Black Noir.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
and she realizes how her relationship with Homelander and everything
Is
has
enabled.
cost her, and it cost her relationship with Elena.
Yeah.
So now Queen Maeve is in a really bad place because she's distraught. You know, she lost Elena, who was the love of her life, and she realizes that basically, why am I a hero in the first place? Because no matter what I do, and no matter what anybody does, this world is screwed, right? So that was the intent of Huey and Starlight. They were going to go and appeal to Queen Maeve to see if she would testify.
And they fail.
Yeah, that didn't go over
Miserably.
well.
Yeah.
But interestingly enough,
Something
You
As they were
have-
leaving,
you better happen.
and
They were driving, too.
They were driving.
then you have freaking A-Train like just appear out of nowhere in the back, like, sup guys? And they're just like, oh my god!
They nearly crashed, right?
Yeah. And he's actually there to give them something. And he gives them Stormfront's entire dossier, including her ties to the Nazi party.
But where does he get it from?
He gets it from the
Church
collective of
Church of the
the
Collective.
Church of the Collective.
Oh.
Which will, again, show up later in the episode.
Yes. And so now they have their Hail Mary missile launcher of justice.
Yep.
Immediately following that, or somewhere along the lines following that, you have an
bring it to-
interaction.
But they bring it to Butcher.
Oh, yes, they bring it to Butcher.
And then Starlight uploads it to the internet.
Yes, it's complete and full leak.
And then see
See?
the CNN version in The Boys, and then see.
And see.
Yeah.
So they pick it up, and now
It's
Stormfront. Everybody knows that not only she's a Nazi, but she goes back to the time of Goebbels and Hitler and
Goebbels.
Goebbels and Hitler, and married under the Nazi symbol and all that stuff, and so she's surprisingly pissed.
Well, yeah, because she's obviously the hero, but now she can't exactly keep doing her whole white supremacy bit if the Nazi stigma and all that is involved, because it kind of like everyone clearly does not like Nazis.
Except
So-
for the Nazis.
Yes.
The neo-Nazis nowadays.
Yeah. But now that there are other people who know about that, like, sure, probably the base doesn't really care,
Exactly.
but now there are a lot of people out there who know and really do care.
I just found it a little bit funny that she was so upset about it because, basically her character the entire season up until that point really didn't give a crap. Like she was basically doing what she did, and it wasn't
Well-
a big thing for her. So
I think that
it
was-
isn't, but
But
now this complicates what she does.
right, because the original plan at the very beginning of the episode, after the head popping session of Congress, right,
Yeah.
was that the president was going to authorize the use of Compound V to all of law enforcement and military.
Yes.
And because of the Stormfront controversy, that was now rescinded and pulled back. So I guess that's the reason, another reason why she was super upset, right?
Yes.
Okay. So
And
Butcher gets it.
Butcher gets it. And then you have the interaction between Edgar and what's his name? The guy who runs the Church of the Collective.
Oh yes. I forgot what his name is. Hold on, I'll find out for you.
But anyway,
In the meantime.
so he's having a sit down with Edgar. They've clearly put a lot of investment in both the Deep and A-Train, who want to get back in the Seven. And so he's meeting with Edgar to bring them in.
More so the Deep,
Yeah.
Yeah.
More so the Deep.
which continue. You'll see what
Yes.
happens.
So Edgar is like, all right, we can do one guy for a redemptive arc. We're open to this, but both of them, I'm sorry. You can't do it.
Yeah, what is the phrase that he says? One.
One is redemption, two is weakness.
Yes.
And so, they have this whole bit where, well, why can't you take A-Train too? And Edgar's like, well, I can't because, Stormfront. And he basically alleges to the fact that she is an overt racist. And so the guy is like, yeah, well, you know what? I think we can work with this. The Deep will have his due. And that was it. And that was when he got the call that Butcher wanted to meet. And then you had that whole scene unravel.
Which again, the Stormfront history comes back, and that's why I said the conversation that he has is both interesting and eye-opening, because again, Mr. Edgar being a black man, right, and Stormfront being the overt racist that she is, even Butcher puts that out to him. It was like, doesn't that bother you that you have Stormfront as a racist, as a Nazi, and she's representing, and you've known about this. It's not even the thing that where you just found out about it through the through NNC reporting, you've known about this, and so. Doesn't that bother you? And he says, well, basically what counts here, yes, it bothers me, but the way that I fight back is through the bottom line, that I'm here to make a buck, and so it's a very interesting conversation that both him and Butcher have about that,
When's it ever not been about
Yeah.
business?
And again, using Stormfront to drum up the propaganda to get Compound V more accessible and more out there, which of course will impact their bottom line. So, a character who's willing to sacrifice his morals for a buck, so to speak.
Yes.
So,
And so we cut over to Homelander and Stormfront at this secluded cabin in God knows where. And, they're trying to get Ryan to use his powers. They fail. Stormfront tries to feed him her problematic propaganda, and she's almost successful. But then you have... what ends up happening is the boys have already drummed up this plan to, get Homelander out of there. And when the news broke that Stormfront was a Nazi, she was like, ah, crap, I gotta get behind this. I'll be back or something. And she flies off.
yes.
And so when that happens, the boys are like, okay, we gotta do this. Go, 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 go. And what they do is they rig up this, sonic bomb, which is meant to incapacitate Homelander, Soups, because, he has the enhanced hearing. And so he goes out and he tries to find it, This is hurting my son, and this is honestly annoying to me. I gotta put an end to this. And that's when Butcher and Becca come in, and they're like, all right, come on, kid, let's go. And, the kid's happy to see the mom. He misses the mom. He's made that a point throughout the first half of the episode.
Yep.
And they're so close to winning.
Isn't it frustrating whenever a character saves another character, they spend at least a good 2 minutes hugging it out instead of
It is
just
so-
getting
oh my
getting out of
gosh.
Dodge and just hug it out later. I whenever that happens, especially lately, because it happens more often than not, we were all screaming at the TV,
Yes.
get out of the cabin. You can say your hellos or whatever afterwards. Get out of the cabin. Homelander could be there in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so here's where things go awry. So Butcher, what he
season
was
of things
supposed to
going
do,
awry.
what Butcher was supposed to do is he was supposed to call the Vought guys to trace his phone. So here's the kid. What he does is he leaves the phone at the cabin, and they arrive at the cabin. But by that time, Homelander's done fixing the Sonic situation,
And the kid is gone.
and they're there. And so he's like, "Where's the kid? What are you doing here?" And they're like, just stuttering, scared moment.
Lasers the crap out of the first guy.
He tears them apart. But now we're gonna cut over to the boys' little hideout. Where they're gonna switch cars and they're gonna help Becca and the kid go underground.
Yeah, the hangar.
Yes. Billy confesses to, you guys gotta go, and Becca's like, no, you have to come with us too. And then he's like, well, I almost screwed up. I don't want that screwed upness being near that kid. And she's like, well, you did the right thing in the end. You gotta come with us. And he's like, no, you have to go. I need to do this. You got to go. We need to make sure you two are safe.
Mhm.
Raise the kid so that he doesn't become like Homelander. At which the very next second, Stormfront shows up.
Well, they were driving away. Mother's Milk was tasked with getting both Becca and Ryan to Mallory.
Yes.
And so they are driving away, but they don't get that far because, like you said,
Stormfront shows up.
Stormfront shows up
And
blasts the car.
oh boy.
You
Yeah. And so that is a thing that happens. But you know what? Something good comes out of that. Because now we get a superhero smackdown. And because it's not only the boys that are there. Kimiko's there, Starlight is there, and they just start fighting.
Yeah.
And they do kind of okay. They're on the ropes a bit. Stormfront's obviously more, they'll go stronger in some sense. And she's winning. It looks like she kills Kimiko, just snaps her neck, and then she's about to go after Starlight. And then, out of nowhere, thank God she showed up,
Yeah.
Queen Maeve stepped in to save the day, and all three of them beat the ever-living bleep out of Stormfront, and by God, it was so gratifying.
And the thing about it is that at that point, Mother's Milk told Butcher, get Becca and Ryan out of here. We'll take care of it. And the boys did try to fight. But again,
It didn't do anything.
you bring a pea shooter to a rocket launcher fight, right? It doesn't work. And even the one weapon that they had to use against Stormfront, like you said,
They didn't even use it. I don't
they
think.
say, dude, what was it, an RPG or something like that?
Yeah, they yelled.
They yelled out a thing. They start running for the hangar, and she blows up the hangar. You know what I'm saying?
Why I don't know why they. I think they should have known a little better than to say, "Hey, get the Hail Mary out of the trunk over there."
Exactly.
It's like, really blows up the Hail Mary.
So what ends up happening is that the girls take care of Stormfront for the boys, and they even mention it, right? Because while they're having their epic showdown and their epic blow by blow, you've got who's there? That was
Frenchie, Huey,
and Mother's Milk.
Mother's Milk.
Oh yeah, at that point.
And they're just staring at him, and it was like, boy, the girls can throw down. So they beat the crap out of Stormfront, but she escapes.
Yep.
She realizes that maybe she can handle Kimiko and Starlight, but Queen Maeve is a very seasoned fighter.
Yeah.
And the tides turn very quickly, and I love they do that WWE stomp down, But then she, like I said, she realizes that it's a losing battle, and she gets out of Dodge. But she goes to a very specific place, which is probably the most important part of the whole entire episode, right?
She catches up with Butcher, Becca, and Ryan. Butcher obviously isn't able to do much of anything. He gets knocked off to the side. Stormfront starts killing Becca, And Becca, she does more than any of them were able to do all day, barring
That
the
is
girls.
true. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And she blinds or half blinds Stormfront, and this pisses her off even more.
Yeah, she
She's
sticks a
Yeah,
knife
a knife.
right into her eye.
yeah.
That eye is probably not going to get better anytime soon.
Oh,
No.
You know?
no way. And so, at that point, Stormfront's like, you know what? I'm gonna give you the Vader treatment, and starts choking her,
Yeah.
about to kill her. And Ryan's there. He's seeing all this. He's like, "Mom, I want to help." And then Butcher is just wailing on Stormfront, trying to do something, but he
What
obviously
was that,
still
a
can't do anything.
Carjack.
Hey,
Tire
I-
iron, right?
He tried using like a crowbar. Then he
yeah,
started
yeah.
trying to shoot her. Obviously, that's not doing anything.
She's not even flinching.
No.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where Ryan manifests his powers for the first time in the form of an eye laser, but I'd rather call it the smite laser because, by God, does Stormfront get her crap wrecked.
You know, when we were watching that scene, and I don't think I told you this, that reminded me of Supernatural in a big way. You know what I'm talking about with Jack.
Oh,
Jack
yes.
and the mom.
Exactly. That's
That-
another thing.
When I
Yeah.
was watching that scene, that was the first thing that I meant to tell you and I forgot. That was the first thing that popped into my mind. It was like, we're going to have a Jack moment here, in Supernatural,
Yeah.
which ends up happening because she gets all Anakin'd on Mustafar, right?
Yeah, she doesn't have any. See, at least Anakin had one arm. She didn't have any arms or any legs, and Anakin didn't have any legs either. But at least Anakin still had the other eye too. But she didn't even have that.
So she
Yeah.
went 4 for 4. Anakin went 3 for 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we have that gut punching moment.
Where Butcher, he's getting up and he's like, "Wait, what about Stormfront? Oh, Stormfront's a piece of bacon. Wait, what about Becca? Becca is bleeding out from the neck."
So if I can interject really quickly, and I'm going to find it really, really, really fast, but when Stormfront was lying on the floor, she was speaking in German.
Yeah.
And there, I was looking online and I did find out what she was saying. She was speaking in German, and it was almost as if when I'm sorry, it was almost as if when she was speaking, she was so out of it, and I
Yeah.
guess at the threshold of what of death's door and whatnot, that the German stuff that she was speaking, if you think about it, makes no sense, right? But if you think that she's dying, it does make sense, because the stuff that she was saying was flashing back to when her early days, when she was still married. So one of the things that she said was, "It was so beautiful how the three of us sat there in the shade of an apple tree. Do you remember the day Frederick," speaking about Frederick Vaughn, her husband, "Chloe's arms out of the car window," which is her daughter,
Yeah.
right, that she lost. "We found the perfect spot by the river in the shade of the apple tree. It was the first time Chloe ate fresh apples." And then she said something else afterwards, where she said, "Was so happy. It was wonderful. I never wanted it to end. I wanted it to never end." So, clearly she was having, I guess, what you want to call
When your whole life.
phenomenon. Yeah, having
Yeah, when you're-
her life flash before her.
Yeah.
And so, AJ had mentioned it earlier, whether there was a question of whether she was dead or she was alive, because shortly afterwards there was a news conference where, Homefront had to
Yeah.
kind of denounce Stormfront. Homelander had to denounce Stormfront. And they mentioned that, they didn't mention that she was fried or,
They didn't. They just mentioned that she would get the
She was
justice.
captured.
Yeah, she was captured, and that they
held
would
in
serve
a facility,
justice.
yeah, and serve justice. So I don't know. Do you think that she's alive?
That's kind of hard because then again, you have your arms, your legs, you're fried. You have one eye freaking cut. So it's like kind of iffy, because you don't really know if she can survive that, because that's not something you generally survive.
And she was rambling at the end.
Yeah.
You know, like literally, she's having her life flash before her. She thought, I guess, in that moment that she was with Frederick for talking to him about Chloe being at that park in the apple tree. You know.
I think that but I honestly think that like the part where they say she's being held captive, I think that's just a lie for
Yeah,
just to cover it up.
Because the other thing is, where would Stormfront go from here?
Yeah.
Mecha Frieza.
Yeah, I know, but you know, her story's kind of been told, and her purpose in the season is kind of there. You know, what would her storyline be going forward? Is she going after Ryan? I mean,
No.
you know, is she gonna go after Starlight for kind of outing her, you know, again? Like, what is the purpose of bringing Stormfront back in
But-
season 3?
There really is no purpose, considering.
Maybe season 4 is like a nuclear warhead.
Maybe, I guess, but
Yeah, but there really is no purpose, because she served her purpose of like. I'm thinking that her purpose was to sort of fuel Homelander's rage for the world.
just manipulate him.
Yeah, just to manipulate him and
To manipulate
kind
the
of
world.
kind of guide his anger and direct it to the world. The
Control
world.
him.
Control him. And I think that was the main reason why Homelander, why she was killed off.
If she was killed off.
If she was killed
we
off.
still don't know.
She
because,
probably was.
Again,
I
we
don't
don't have a
think so.
dead body. We
And
don't have
Mecha
a body
Frieza
yet.
would be a little bit corny.
I know, but again, if you're gonna go for an apt explanation,
So going back to the scene in the forest where Stormfront is basically Anakin, and then there's
Yes.
one last bit of it.
oh
to that
yes,
scene.
of course. So Butcher, you know, he's crying over Becca. He just gotten her back, and now she's gone because she ends up dying. And the
Called it.
implication here is yes,
Called it.
sadly. The implication here is that, you know, the blast. Here's the thing though. Wouldn't her wound have been cauterized? So what I think
I don't
happened, what I probably think happened there was that,
Yeah.
the hand, you know, she was like, "Ugh."
Yeah, so Stormfront was choking her, and so what AJ is referring to is that maybe when she got blasted, her hold was so great that it maybe ripped a hole into her throat because she didn't get.
especially as she was burning alive.
Yes,
That's gonna-
she didn't burn. She bled to death.
Yeah.
Because she had a wound in her neck.
You know what? This is gonna sound weird, but I'm pretty sure that this might be reasonable. Maybe you know how sometimes when I'm pretty sure this is how it works. When you have a grip on, you're touching something and it starts to heat up really fast. It sort of like, I don't know.
Burns a hole.
It would like get attached to it or somehow. I don't know if that's how it works.
Considering that
It was almost
Stormfront's
like
arms were atomized.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh yeah.
That's not there. So I guess the only thing would be that she ripped a hole in her neck, and that's
As
where
she was getting roasted.
Yeah, exactly. Like she got thrown back, and
Yeah.
it's just one of those, you know,
Yeah.
things. Whatever. Weird, but whatever. We'll go with it.
And Butcher looks like he's about to kill this kid.
Which he does in the comic books.
Oh.
So that was a callback, and so a lot of fans, when they were probably watching that episode, they were like, okay, Ryan's buying it at this point, you know.
But then,
He doesn't do it.
because Homelander shows up.
Right. Because, most likely, he would have killed the heck out of that kid.
Oh,
Yeah.
Because the look on his face, which again, you know, Carl Urban who has been fantastic in these two seasons,
Yeah.
that was a great moment for him because he went from pure desperation and just being distraught to that, and then it changed in an instant when he looked at the kid and you could see the rage in his face, right?
Yeah.
That was an excellent acting performance there by
Yeah.
Carl Urban. So, but then Homelander shows up,
Mm-hmm.
drowned in the blood of all those soldiers. Like his blonde hair wasn't blonde anymore; it was red.
Yeah. And so what ends up happening here is Homelander. I was honestly thinking that Homelander would actually be in awe. Like, wow, my son did that? That's awesome. But no, he actually surprised me. He was actually angry that Stormfront was dead.
I think he had really genuine feelings from Stormfront.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really do think, because remember, what's Homelander's gig this whole time?
He wants to be loved.
Yeah, he's always alone.
Yeah.
And he finally found a quote unquote soulmate that, I mean,
That was very similar. They were very
Well,
similar.
Goddess to complete the god.
they were happy killing off people. It was like, let's go kill some people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he had a soulmate there, and now he's alone again. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think it was interesting to see that Homelander has the capability to have feelings, right?
Yeah.
To love someone. Now, it's a messed up kind of love,
Yeah.
right? But at least, he was so overwhelmed with that, he was ready to laser the crap. There was 2 people there that wanted to kill Ryan.
Yeah.
That kid was not in a good place at that point.
But then, so Homelander gets there and he says, "Oh wow," and he goes, "Oh wow, kid, did you do that?" And Ryan's just frozen there.
Yeah, he's just crying. He's like, I'm sorry. Again, just like Jack from Supernatural, right?
Yeah. And then he keeps going. Get over here. And
makes
he
a choice.
actually goes towards Billy Butcher. And Billy Butcher also looks surprised by this. He's like, "Huh? Why is he coming towards me?"
You don't even know who I am, kid.
Yeah.
Like literally, the cabin was, I think, the first time that he's ever met Ryan. He's never met him before.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, because Ryan says, "Who the heck is this guy?"
Mhm. And what surprises me here is that, what's his name? Billy was actually getting ready to defend Ryan, even though that was going to be the most uphill fight he would ever have fought.
That wouldn't have been a fight.
That would have been.
No, it wouldn't. It'd
That
be a
would've been-
massacre
Yeah.
for both of them.
Well, the only saving grace would be that if Homelander wanted to really make him suffer, it would have been a slow death.
Yeah.
But it was going to be a death no matter what.
But it wasn't a death, because, yet again, we are saved by our own personal savior, Queen Maeve. And she basically pulls up the whole airliner incident, where someone footaged them like, "If you don't get back, I'm going to laser you right now" thing. And Homelander's like, "All right, you're really going to do this? If you do that, I'm going to roast the planet alive, and there will be no one to stop me." But then Queen Maeve
Goes
kind of,
against him.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then she figures out, or rather, it finally like, well, you know what? Maybe there is a way I can spin this. And she goes, "Well, if you do that, then there'll be no one left to love you. There'll be no one left to look up to you. And if I release this, there'll be no one left to look up to you or love you. They will see you for the monster you are."
And I love the way that they did that, because at that point, you hear in Homelander's mind the chants of Homeland, right?
Yeah.
And I guess that's the realization where it's like, okay, maybe this is not such a good idea.
And she,
You win this fight.
yeah. And so he actually stands down, surprisingly. And that was it for that confrontation.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so at the very end, you have Billy giving the kid over to Mallory. I was half seeing. No, all right. Maybe it was a little bit of a stretch, but I saw maybe he would take the kid under his wing. But now that I look back on it, he just killed his wife, and he didn't really have much of an inclination towards him to begin with.
Yeah, he.
But
It's not
what he
the
ended
father
up,
type either.
yeah. But it was nice to see that he showed some vestige of kindness towards him when he gave Becca's necklace to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was nice. And then off to Mallory. The boys go their separate ways. They're pardoned according to Mallory. Everyone goes home. Goes home. Frenchie and Kimiko go off on their dancing spree. Starlight is now part of the Seven again, along with... Oh, we'll get to... Oh, no, you know what? I'm not even going to do that. Hold on a second.
There's still one little
Yeah, there's
thing.
still a few little things.
Yeah.
2 little things. And... Yeah, so that's the lay of the landscape so far. Starlight's back in the Seven. The boys go home. We don't know what's going on with Bully Butcher. He kind of just goes off into the sunset. We don't know. We don't have an idea as to what he's going to do.
But he was offered a job.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
offered a job.
So Mallory is now creating a underground, off the books soup.
Well, technically,
task
it was
force.
on the books.
Well, she said no. I don't think it's completely on the books. I
No,
think it's
part
going to
of
be sanctioned by the government, right? But they're going to be like the secret thing. So yeah, they're on the books, but
Not quite on the books.
yeah, they're like a shadow organization to watch over the soups.